Dragon Ball has a ton of different storylines. What if everything was connected? Today we'll be starting a what-if scenario that is pretty crazy. We're going to try and fit everything together, seeing how the various different Dragon Ball properties affect each other. There's going to be some major story changes from the get-go. So let's begin this new scenario. What if everything was canon? I should put an asterisk next to everything. We're not going to go over everything with Dragon Ball. But here's what we're going to try and piece together. The Dragon Ball Z movies, the OVAs, the Dragon Ball Z filler, Dragon Ball Daima, everything in Dragon Ball Super, and everything from Dragon Ball GT. I might also take some lore and other things from games like Super Dragon Ball Heroes, but I'm not going to cover the stories of them. No promises though, that might change as we go on. Now, the Bardock stuff would kind of change because we have 3 different Bardock stories we're combining. Minus, the Z Bardock, and Episode of Bardock. But thankfully, they don't really affect anything going forward, it's just Bardock's own story that's affected. So we're going to be covering that later on, we're not going to touch upon him right now. I usually use a composited Bardock in my scenarios anyways, so essentially, Bardock goes to Planet Cereal, that goes like normal. Bardock has his squad dies when everyone's executed. He tries to fight Frieza, then he dies there. The one change here is that he actually gets sent back in time, and the Episode of Bardock happens. He becomes a Super Saiyan and fights Chilled, and then this means he just lives on in the past. I guess we'll get more into his story later because it usually affects stuff down the line and not like right beforehand. Especially because the fight with Chilled was like 2,000 years ago. And of course, Jocko the Galactic Patrolman happens just as normal. So let's move on to Dragon Ball. The first 3 Dragon Ball films don't really fit in anyways. They're meant to basically be replacements of the main story. Retellings that kind of exist as their own thing. Everything else I'm going to include here is meant to be a somewhat new story. And even though most just kind of copy canon arcs, still they attempt to do their own thing. So, sorry, but no Emperor Chaozu stuff here. Unlike compositing the Bardock stuff, compositing this doesn't really work as well, since we would have to replace the actual Dragon Ball arcs, which I don't want to do. Also, Path to Power is a retelling, so we're ignoring that here. As for Dragon Ball stuff, well, most of the Dragon Ball filler is just stuff that's meant to pad the time out and not fully fleshed out stories. Of course, there are some small side stories here and there, but they don't really affect too much in the grand scheme of things. Honestly, the biggest thing I could think of is the fact that Dr. Flappe is credited for the creation of the androids. Let's go with the Daizenshu 7 explanation and say that Jiro and Flappe were colleagues, and at least for Android 8, he's just a co-creator. Anyways, we basically breezed through Dragon Ball. It means Dragon Ball ends with the arc of Goku and Chi-Chi getting the wedding dress and getting married. So it's pretty smooth sailing so far. But this is probably the easiest part of the story to begin with. Everything else gets way tougher. Right after this, we get into Dragon Ball Z movie territory. Now, a lot of the Dragon Ball Z movies contradict the main timeline, so we're going to have to adjust a lot of the events for it. Since a few things won't change at all, and we're going to be inserting so many new arcs, we're not going to go into deep detail for every arc unless absolutely necessary. Otherwise, the story would be way longer than it needs to be, and this is probably going to be one of my longest by far anyways. After the 23rd World Tournament, we don't have the Saiyan Saga. We have Dead Zone. This is going to be our first major change. Thing is, this movie actually fits into the timeline really nicely, happening before the Saiyan Saga. We can actually kind of breeze through this movie. It's not going to change anything major. You don't really have to adjust a lot of the story to fit it. So Garlic Jr. comes to Earth the same as normal, and the movie goes exactly the same. But it causes a butterfly effect. Now, with the Dragon Ball Z movies being canon, this is going to affect how strong the characters are too. By a lot. We're going to have to rely on anime and movie scaling here because characters are far stronger than their manga selves. Now, if you're not too into power scaling, just know that everyone in the anime and the movies are very overpowered compared to the manga. For reference, this starts really with Dead Zone. The Dead Zone is a black hole. Garlic Jr. makes that, and characters resist the pull of it, and they defeated him. This alone makes Garlic Jr. way stronger than anyone in the Saiyan Saga, and even stronger than a lot of the people on Namek, which would also make Goku and Piccolo a lot stronger, so that wouldn't make sense when they're fighting someone like Vegeta. Goku would be overpowered as hell, and it makes no sense to give Goku and Piccolo that power jump and not give it to others, so this movie's not actually going to change much. Piccolo still wants to kill Goku at the end, and it means Garlic Jr. will return, which is probably the biggest change, but it serves as the first time Goku gets to truly see Gohan's power. Now, he already knew that Gohan had power in him originally, but Chi-Chi didn't want him training. I feel like even seeing Gohan's power here isn't going to change much. And even if Gohan did do some extra training, he's not going to have nearly enough time because this movie seems to take place right before Raditz arrives. So Raditz comes to Earth, and everything from here on out goes pretty much the same too. Actually, everything up until Vegeta's defeated goes exactly as normal. So far, it doesn't seem too crazy, right? Well, this is where things start changing a lot. After the Saiyans are defeated, the events of the world's strongest movies should happen, so Dr. Wheelo should be revived. However, it's impossible right now. In order for Dr. Kochin to melt the ice, he needed to make a wish to Shenron, but Shenron isn't active right now. He was just used to revive Goku, so Dr. Wheelo is going to have to stay dormant until Shenron is back. Or so it seems. Next, we have Namek. That means all the filler that happens in the Saiyan Saga and the anime, and the Namek Saga, all that happens here too. I guess the biggest thing to note here is that the stuff with fake Namek happens. Oh yeah, and all the Princess Snake stuff happened too, I guess. And also the fact that the Ginyu Force showed up on Kenkai's planet, so Tien, Chaozu, and Yamcha have to fight them off. But honestly, a lot of the filler at this point doesn't affect too much, so we can kind of gloss over it. Even with the addition of all these things, thankfully it makes my life easy right now, but once we get beyond Namek, that's when stuff gets a little bit tougher to fit in. But also, it leaves more opportunities to make things interesting. And while the events of Namek are going on, a new threat would be heading towards Earth. Turles. So with a simple adjustment, we can make things fit, and this is where the radical changes occur. Turles is going to be a few weeks later than normal, so everything on Namek goes the same too. But then, Turles arrives on Earth. Right off the bat, there's a pretty big issue here. Goku's not around. He's on Yardrad. Also, most of the Z fighters are still dead. Piccolo's a lot stronger, so is Gohan. And Vegeta's there too. The scaling gets very wacky, but there's one thing that the movies help us with. Oh god, what did I get myself into? I'm just now realizing I'm going to have to do a ton of power scaling in the story, and it's not going to be fun with the movie stuff. Anyways, Piccolo's power in the movie is stated by Turles to be 18,000, which is exactly how strong Saiyan Saga Vegeta's was. This tells us that Piccolo in this movie is far weaker than he would be after merging with Nail. So even with Goku gone, Piccolo is a great contender for defending the planet here because Piccolo in this story is around the level of second form Frieza. Actually, he's probably a little bit stronger right now. Also, worth mentioning that Roshi's still around on the planet and he might help out with the battle here. Gohan will also be a more confident fighter after Namek, although it's going to be weird for him to fight someone who looks like his father again. V-Jump places Vegeta's last Namek power level at 250,000, following his fight with Recoome, and Gohan was last place at 200,000 before a Rage Boost. So for the sake of this video, Gohan's at least 300k. And considering he got such a huge jump in power that he was able to hurt third form Frieza, I'd say now he can go to a power level of like 3 million when he's mad. But of course, Vegeta also did get stronger after Dende healed him versus Frieza. We'll say that Piccolo is around 1.5 million, and Vegeta's slightly higher at 1.7 million. I'm not going to go through any specific calculations, because I don't like power levels, I just only use them when necessary in parts of the story like this. So yes, these numbers are pulled out of my ass, but I think they're fair estimates. What about Turles though? Well, in base, he's cooked. In Tree of Might, he said he didn't think that Great Ape Gohan was a big issue for him, and Gohan's power level in this movie was placed at 10,000, or 100,000 as a Great Ape. Now, Turles' power is really weird because one of the movie pamphlets says that Turles' power was 19,000. It's kind of strange because you would have expected Piccolo to put up more of a fight, considering it was only a 1,000 power level difference. Then Turles later on seems shocked that Goku's power is at 30,000. Though that could have just been because Goku was suppressing his power and Turles didn't expect that. He barely fights Goku in base, so it's really tough to say. He kind of just avoided his attacks. But then he also doesn't seem to think Gohan's an issue as a Great Ape, so my only reasoning for that is because Gohan is mindless as a Great Ape. So we're going to ignore that 19,000 power level. Thankfully, it's not too hard to do that because the powers of Piccolo, Gohan, and Goku were all stated in the movie itself. Turles' power was only stated in a pamphlet for the movie. We're going to say Turles is more like 50k. He also said that Frieza wouldn't even be a problem after eating the fruit of the Tree of Might. But what Frieza is he talking about? First form? Final form? I think it's far more likely that Turles is referring to first form Frieza here, as the viewers at this point didn't know Frieza had other forms. Why reference full power Frieza if no one even knew what his full power was? And as we're about to go into, I think it is pretty reasonable to assume this, because Goku in the movie is at a power of 30k, meaning with Kaioken times 10 he's at 300k, so this makes sense. Turles easily deals with him after getting the Tree of Might's fruit, and first form Frieza has a power level of 530k. Let's say Turles is double of first form Frieza, which would make for an easy battle. He would be at just over 1 million, so let's round it to 1.1 million for his power level. So Turles is actually really weak in comparison to someone like Piccolo here, or Gohan when enraged, but he's still going to be a challenge, though that is if he gets the fruit from the tree. Gohan, Vegeta, Piccolo, and Roshi fight the Crusher Corps. It's pretty easy, though Vegeta's not really working alongside them, he's just there for the thrill of it, and because he wants to fight someone. But they're really surprised when Turles himself shows up, first of all because he looks like Goku, and second of all, because he's another Saiyan. Vegeta especially is surprised, to think that another Saiyan was out there this entire time. He can't believe there's another survivor, and he appears to be a low-class warrior, judging by the fact he looks exactly like Kakarot. Turles would love to take Gohan with him, but that's not going to happen. He can't force Gohan to transform into a Great Ape because Gohan doesn't have his tail anymore. And base Gohan is actually pretty strong, stronger than base Turles. Though Turles thinks he can get Vegeta on his side. He tries to get Vegeta to help him, and Vegeta laughs. Turles doesn't impress him at all. Judging by his ki, he's pretty weak. And unlike someone like Kakarot who works for his power, this guy doesn't seem that impressive. He's trying to use this tree to get stronger. Not to mention, his bar is set really high. He's seen a real Super Saiyan after all, one who defeated Frieza. And Turles is really confused to hear this. A Super Saiyan? What does he mean? Vegeta tells him, there's another low-class warrior, one who looks exactly like Turles actually, and after a battle with Frieza on Namek, he became a Super Saiyan. Though they haven't actually summoned Porunga yet, so they don't know if Goku's still alive or not. Turles is terrified because he could tell Vegeta's not bluffing, and after reading his scouter, even with his own great strength, he knows that Vegeta's stronger than him. Is it because he's an elite Saiyan? No, it's actually because of all of Vegeta's battles. Had Turles arrived about a month earlier or so, Vegeta would have been a lot weaker than Turles. Quickly, Turles snatches a fruit from the Tree of Might, eating it, growing a lot stronger. And now, he fights Vegeta. Turles showcases more and more power. The Tree of Might gave him an amazing buff. But Vegeta is still too strong for him. Turles considers going for another fruit, but he knows that's dangerous. It could make his body unstable. So instead, he tries to fight smart. With all of his power, he catches Vegeta off guard with a blast. It's not meant to hurt or kill Vegeta or anything, just get him away from the battle as quick as possible. A concussive blast that sends Vegeta flying across the planet. He then sets his sights on Piccolo. And Turles doesn't think this Namekian will be any match for him. Even Warrior Namekian shouldn't be that strong, but Piccolo tells him to think again. The battle between these two commences, and Piccolo has the edge in power. It's not a huge gap, but it's enough for Turles to not overcome it. Not to mention, Piccolo has his regeneration, and better techniques to boot. He overwhelms Turles and defeats him, but Turles isn't going to go down that easily. Turles cuts his power a bit, creating an artificial moon, quickly throwing it up into the sky. Piccolo's taken aback by it. When Vegeta first did this, Piccolo was dead and probably on his way to King Kai's planet. He might have not even heard of it. Roshi wouldn't know what it is either, but Gohan definitely knows what this is. And Piccolo realizes once Turles starts transforming that it's replicating the moon. Now, Turles did sacrifice some of his power to transform, but the 10 times boost makes up for it. After being buffed by the Tree of Might and turning into a Great Ape, we're going to place his power at 9 million. There's no way anyone here could deal with him. Vegeta returns and he instantly knows they're screwed once he sees the Great Ape in the distance. A grin appears on Turles' face, and with a single blast, Vegeta's defeated. Next, he sets his sights on Piccolo, defeating him pretty quickly too. He lifts up a foot, planning to stomp on Piccolo and kill him that way, but then Gohan gets enraged, attacking Turles head on. But even with his rage boost, it's not enough to overpower Turles. He's able to get some surprise hits in, but that's all. And Gohan is quickly defeated by him too. But there's still hope. Nearby, Vegeta's on the ground. He's been unconscious this entire time, but he looks up in the sky and sees a very familiar artificial moon. That brings back some memories. Vegeta charges a disc of energy in his hand, replicating Krillin's technique once again. It's something he's done before. Just as he did against Great Ape Gohan, Vegeta flings this at the unsuspecting Turles, who's right now preparing to kill Gohan and Piccolo. It cuts clean through his tail, with Turles de-transforming. Weakly, Vegeta stands up and walks over to him. Turles still has some power left, and he could take on Vegeta. The two briefly fight with Vegeta falling again. A blast hits Turles from behind. A full power Kamehameha from Roshi. He didn't think that old man would be an issue anymore. Turles rushes over to kill him, but a beam then pierces through his chest, instantly killing Turles. He falls over to the ground, and Roshi sees Piccolo standing not too far away, with 2 fingers pointed out. It's the same technique he used to kill Goku. He tells Roshi now they're even. King Piccolo caused Roshi's death before, but now Piccolo saved Roshi. Roshi nervously laughs. Yeah, he guesses they're even. With a powerful ki blast, Piccolo destroys the Tree of Might, returning all the energy from it to Earth. Of course, there's still a ton of damage to Earth, but at least all the energy's back, and it's a good thing they were able to defend Earth without Goku. And Piccolo thanks Vegeta for his help, but Vegeta tells him they're not allies. He was just fighting because there was another Saiyan involved, and he's never going to turn down a good fight. Sure, Piccolo's very familiar with that type of bravado. Anyways, the fighters all heal up. But this isn't the last threat they're going to face alone. First off, around this time, Garlic Jr. is finally able to escape the dead zone. Now, he's not going to attack right away. He still needs to make plans, but he's going to return to Earth soon. But coincidentally, another villain is freed at the same time. With the Tree of Might absorbing a bunch of energy and nutrients from Earth, I would guess that a lot of Earth's water is taken too, including water taken from the ice around Earth. On a faraway frozen part of the planet, a lot of the ice is melted, temporarily. Everything's restored after the Tree of Might is destroyed, but this causes something to thaw out temporarily. Dr. Cochin has been planning for a while now. After seeing the Tree of Might, he wasn't really sure what to do, but he immediately rushed over to where Dr. Wheelo was, wanting to make sure the preserved remains of him were safe. And they're better than safe. They were freed from the ice. He's quickly able to retrieve them, and now he doesn't need Shenron to melt the ice. His plans can be set in motion. Dr. Wheelo can finally return. But he has some ambitious plans. A warrior that Dr. Wheelo's brain can get transferred to. For now, he has a mechanical body. But soon, he'll have a far better organic one. But they can't strike just yet. With both Garlic Jr. and Dr. Wheelo planning their next moves, we'll leave off here for now. What'd you guys think about this part? What's going to happen next? Leave your thoughts and ideas in the comments below. I'd love to see what you guys think. As usual, be sure to drop a like and subscribe if you haven't already. It really does help out the channel, and it shows me you want to see more videos like this. Anyways, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video.